Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Let Fear Bounce. This is Kim Langling, your host, and I am so glad that you are spending a part of your day with myself today and my special guest, Luce Sutherland. Now, she is an author of spicy, folks, spicy romance since before it was mainstream. Now, take notice that I'm putting emphasis on spicy. So, when you couldn't hide behind a Kindle and you had to bring the illicit book to the register and then be judged by the cashier. When those books became harder to come by, you know what? She decided she was going to write some herself, and so she did. She lives with her own alpha husband in the Sunshine State, which is Florida. And even though she gets sunburned walking from the car to the grocery store, yeah, that's where they live. She's also passionate about living each day to the fullest, which includes nurturing authentic friendships, savoring Maui coffee, and
Mhm.
indulging in Scottish gin every once in a while. Luce is also a devoted advocate for the benefits of self-care. Luce, welcome to Let Fear Bounce.
Thank you so much, Kim. It's a pleasure to be here.
I've been looking forward to this because, I have so many authors on the show, and each one is so different, and what they write and how they write is so different. And I just love to hear and find out their journey, how they got to where they're at, what made them decide to even want to write. Was there something in their life that was that impetus that just, nudged you that way? So was there any defining moment for you that said, by golly, I'm going to be a writer?
Well, I was in my late 20s when this epiphany happened, and I started writing really just for myself. I never intended, I didn't set out to be a writer per se, but I was disillusioned. I was disillusioned with relationships and men. My marriage had come to a close. It was not so amicable, but I felt compelled then to start to read romance novels, to try and rebuild that belief that in romance and in love. And I started reading voraciously. And up to that point, I really hadn't. I had a young child. And there was a point where I said, these just aren't hitting the mark exactly for me. And I started writing myself. Now, that was several decades ago. And I wrote a lot. I wrote 15 unfinished manuscripts, and I like to say it wasn't a purposeful putting it aside, but it was motherhood, it was career. Everything seemed to take a front seat, and the writing was in the back seat. And for many years, I forgot about it. And at its heart, there was a fear. There was a fear of letting people read it. The one time I did let someone read it, they said, "Oh, this is really fabulous. You should continue. I can't wait to read more." And it was as if it jinxed me. I felt, "Oh my goodness, we might have something here, and I don't know if I'm ready to pursue it." And I put that away, and it took years for me to even pull it back out and start editing it again. The other problem with my writing adventures are the fact that I would be inspired to write for weeks at a time, and then I would put it aside, and life would get in the way. I'd come back, pick it up, and find fault with everything. And it wasn't until much later, well, 5 years ago, where I started listening to professional writers, listening to mentors, joined a guild, watched webinars, hundreds of them, and understood that you shouldn't, depending on your personality, I'll say that. I won't say everybody should do this, but when you write, don't go back immediately and edit. Put it in the rearview mirror for now. Keep writing. And my problem was just this inner critic would find fault with everything that was on those first 20 pages. And that was the other thing that was basically in my way. And I have
So
to
let
say,
me interject there because
yes,
that is so powerful what you're saying, that you would get all that written down, and then you'd go back and you'd look at it and just tell yourself, that's all crap. I've done the same exact thing.
yeah,
And so many authors I've talked to, I think it's so prevalent in authors that sense of there's that little thing, I call it the D man sitting on my shoulder,
yes, yes.
sitting there saying, who do you think you are? You're not a writer. You think this
Yeah.
is you think people are going to want to read this? You actually think this is any good?
Hmm.
And no matter what others say, sometimes our own eyes look at it and go, "Oh my gosh." And then you do end up putting it aside for a long time.
Exactly.
It's a,
Exactly.
what a it's so I like to hear that from other, not that I think it's great that you
No.
have these feelings, but I'm glad that you're sharing that because it's just another instance of, for those folks that are out there listening,
Yeah.
and this is for anything, not just writing,
Yeah.
being your own worst self-critic.
Yeah.
Make
Absolutely.
sure you tell that little voice that's sitting on your shoulder to shut up.
Just zip it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If they just don't
Exactly.
have a place here, it's like, just tell it. This is what I do out loud. You don't have a place here today. I'm not listening.
Exactly.
You don't have a place here. You're not welcome.
Yeah.
And for me, saying stuff like that out loud works.
Yeah.
So find what's good for you out there, folks. But yeah, that self-critic, that's such a powerful thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And it definitely was in my case. Add to that the idea that if that sharing when the stories got a little spicier, and they were only written for me, but when I got to the point where I actually thought about publishing, I just completely shied away from that idea. I said, no, I can't. I don't think I'm willing to put myself out there. And I equate publishing a novel with walking down the street naked. Like, just to say, here I am, warts and all. And I really just wasn't able to do it until, I will say, until 5-ish years ago. And
So
my
this is
colleagues and
relatively
I,
recent.
yes, so very, very.
Oh, well, how neat. Do go on.
Yes, I have to thank the virus known as COVID for an opportunity, a window, and I thank the colleagues, the female colleagues that I was working with at the time, still work with, and we established a book club, and we were exchanging our favorite novels, juicy novels, spicy novels of various degrees of heat, and I shared with them that I had written, not finished, but had written several manuscripts, 15 to be exact. And they had wanted to read some of it. And I was at this point, I think, in my life where I said, no, what am I waiting for? Why am I still hiding? Obviously, I was willing to share that I had written something, and I wanted to make more of it. Not that I didn't have a literary background. I had been in business in the corporate sort of world, and I always felt I was good enough professional writer. But it was that them asking repeatedly, let's hear some of it, let's see some of it. And then when COVID hit and all of that social stuff had to stop and travel stopped and work, the pressure and intensity at work really, really let off. And I had hours of
Yeah.
solitude and at no interruption. And for me, that was paramount. I tend to you either have hyper focus or you're super easily distracted. That's me.
Yeah.
So anything could pull me out of writing. Anything. A bad bug in the office means that's it. Probably the day is shot. And so this was the perfect opportunity, and I at least I recognized it and said, okay, all right, Luce, what do you need? What do you need? What do you have to figure out to make this happen? And so I really went right back to square one. I said, okay, you better figure out the structure of a novel, scene structure, chapter, 3 5 act structure. I found as many webinars as I could. I read the snowflake method, which is a fun and goofy novel for first time authors, but it worked because it brings it right down to one sentence. Describe your novel in one sentence, and then you build this intricate snowflake from this one little center. That helped me immensely, just dumb it
What a
down,
cool visual
honestly.
picture, because that would help me too.
Mm-hmm. Good. You just
That's how
take.
my brain would work. Yeah.
Mhm.
How awesome though. I
Yeah.
I'm going to jump back real quick. You
Sure.
said you asked yourself a question because, the world, I always say with high drama, when the world changed,
Yes.
because it sounds like what I was going through almost is parallel to what you were going through. I worked in the corporate world. I was
Okay.
a sales director. I traveled for work all the time. And then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, I did not.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I no longer had a job. There was no place to travel to because those companies were all closing. So
Hmm.
it changed everything. And I sat there myself saying, Kim, I asked myself three questions. What do you like to do? What are you good at? And what do you have a passion for? Now sit down, figure out how to make something happen because I had no intention of sending out resumes.
Right.
I
Yeah.
was like, not this season of my life. You asked
Yeah.
yourself, what do I want to do?
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
love hearing that. I love hearing that. People, you
Well,
got to take a chance on yourself.
100%. And I honestly, at times, I felt like the universe really gave me a gift. My family, my son and my husband, were East Coast at the time, and I was stationed for this job out on the West Coast. So I had no interaction with anybody from 6 p.m. PST to midnight PST. Well, that became the witching hour, and that is still now is my most creative time. I can put everything aside. Email had gone down to a very reasonable level, and I'd always taken my career really, really seriously. Not that I stopped doing that, but it just allowed me this creative time. The other really awesome book I read was Creativity by John Cleese. Totally recommended by somebody out of the blue. And it really speaks to allowing your subconscious to work on the novel when you feel you've got a blank page and you're not sure where you're going next. And this book speaks to the fact that when you are not writing, your brain is thinking about it. It's plotting and planning. It's a remarkable thing. A lot of people will go, okay, sure. I don't know what you're talking about until they experience it. It's sometimes it's between full wakefulness, like when you are aware that the light is coming through the crack in the window shade and you're going to roll over and go back to sleep, but you're not in a deep sleep. You're in this state where your mind is working. I found for me that was huge. And back when the world did come back online and we were able to go up, out of the house and have a massage, when I would have a massage, I would go in with an intention and I would come out and start typing madly into my phone when I came out of that massage in the car in the parking lot because all of these ideas would come. And I am a firm believer that the universe, once you set your intention, once you say it out loud, whether you put it on a piece of paper, this is like the second vision board I have done a vision board because if you don't tell them what I hate using the word want, but what you desire, what you see for yourself. If you don't put that out there, how can they deliver it? And I coach people often who are at a point in their careers or their life where they're not sure which path to take. And sometimes it means you have to let go of
Mm.
what you think is the right outcome. I've got to have that job. If I don't get that particular job, I'm going to be unhappy and nothing's going to work out and or you lose a job and you're in the same boat. What am I going to do next? Well, if you set the intention or the list, put it down on paper. I'd like a job where I have work-life balance. I'd like to be challenged. I'd like to work with wonderful people. I'd like to make an impact. You leave the specifics out of it and ask the universe to bring that. And I feel in many respects when I set out to do this novel, I look back at it now and honestly, sometimes I wonder, wow, wow, how did you do that? How did you come up with that? Honestly, I look back and I go, well, my angels and guides were working full time. They were there with me as it all uncovered. And so it's, well, how did you think of that? Well, I, I created two characters. I put them in a situation. That's how I started it, with this very basic structure, and then let it unfold. And
Now, do
that's
your
awesome.
characters, do they talk to you?
Yes, actually, I think that they do. I was very intricate in the character Bible development of, even if it would never come up in the novel, I knew how they would react in certain situations, or what made them fear relationships the way they did, a lack of trust. Both of these two characters come together at a stage in their lives where neither is interested in love or a relationship or anything of that kind. And I would say they've even given up on it, given up on the idea that it's for them, and how the chemistry between them is the first thing that brings them together, even though they would rather it not be there. But the chemistry is the start of it, and so it's a spicy novel, but at its heart, it's a romance between two people who really have to get past their trust issues. So
Everybody's got baggage.
yes, yes,
Everybody's
exactly.
got baggage. We all bring it with us, no
Yep.
matter where we're at, whether you want to or not.
Mm-hmm. So true.
I'm backing up again. When you're in that semi-conscious
So
state, when you wake up and you see
yes,
the light coming through the the window shades.
yes.
I've had that often as well, and I'm wondering if I'm assuming maybe they do. A lot of authors have that state of mind
Mhm.
because their characters have actually, well, their characters are part of you because you're
Yeah,
creating them.
they're living in your head.
Yes, they're there. They are there.
Yes.
So often the authors that I would speak to, and I speak to a lot, they would say, my characters talk to me and they tell me, I don't, why are you making me do this? I don't want to do that. That's not what I would do.
Oh,
She might do that, but I'm not gonna. And then they're
right.
like, who's she? Oh, that's another character coming in. You know, and I always found that fascinating. Well, and I decided this year I'm gonna write my own fiction book. It's been in my head
Hmm.
for like 5 or 6 years. And as soon as I said out loud,
Yes,
like you were saying, I think words have power when they're said out loud.
100%.
And when I said that to myself, it was Christmas Day.
Hmm.
Everybody had already gone. It was just me and the dog. And I'm like, I am going to write that fiction novel this year, or in this coming year. And I just said it out loud. It just came to me. And I sat down that day and wrote for like 3 hours. And I finished
Wow.
the first one already in less
Amazing.
than 2 months.
Yeah.
And in those moments, those quiet moments,
Hmm.
not even maybe sometimes semi-awake, but just in those very quiet, still moments, like in the first thing in the morning, drinking my coffee, I'll be like, oh, that's what she's gonna do.
Yeah.
And it's like they're
Talking to
whispering.
you.
Yeah.
Yes. I 100% agree with you. I think part of the problem with people today, we have constructed these lives that are so busy. We're
And
constantly running from
what's
one thing.
expected.
It is what's expected. Yes,
Yeah.
100%, especially in the corporate world.
Yeah.
You didn't answer that email within 6 hours, you whatever,
I don't
we
miss the
were
corporate world.
answering.
Yeah, I
No,
don't
well,
miss
I'm
any of that.
I'm still in it part-time though. Part-time. But I think that people don't have enough time of quiet.
Right.
Just introspection, reflection, journaling, maybe, whatever it is, where you listen to the whispers. And this is the other thing I love to tell people, to say to people who come looking for, advice. Sometimes it's advice, sometimes it's just sharing. And I say often the messages are coming, but they're just like a little tap on the shoulder, or they're a whisper, and you ignore them because you're so busy, because you are so bent on one path that you're not listening. Well, eventually, it's like you get nudged, and if you still continue to ignore this, it becomes larger and larger until it cannot be ignored. And in some cases, it's losing a job that you weren't going to leave of your own
Right.
volition, that you are putting up with a horrible situation. You're putting up with a horrible relationship because you've just gotten so used to it, and you haven't looked up from this that is your existence and said, there's a window over there I could climb through. There's a
Right.
door over here opening. And unless you're aware and awake, spiritually awake, you can miss it. You can 100% miss it.
What did you do, or what was the one thing that that happened? You're like, all right, that's it. Enough is enough. This is what I'm going to do now because I have to stay healthy. I have to do this, this, and this.
The thing, there were several that were, as I say, scares, but the thing that became the highest, most in my face problem was migraine headaches.
Oh,
And I sought help from a neurologist. I went and, they ran all the tests. They put all these little things on your head and they run, and they didn't really have a great answer for me. You can come and get a shot in your stomach every month. It's about $1,500. I can't even remember because I walked out of there and said, no, no way am I
yeah.
doing that. So also, if you imagine, I was working full time. So I'm at a computer all day. I take a break for dinner and I go sit at the computer all night. So everything here was
Right.
in knots. And I, for a long time, just said, "Oh, that's what the reason is." But there were always other triggers.
Yep.
I think in my most recent bio, I put that all the things that I love trigger migraines. So it's so unfair. However,
Migraines are debilitating.
they are, well, there is a really good prescription, which thank goodness I did find eventually. But I think my first migraine was 1995, 96. And I, for years, just took a lot of Advil and a lot of,
Mm.
pain relievers. Anyway, I digress. I came to
No,
the
no,
realization,
I'm listening. I'm here. I'm listening, sister.
but I realized that it wasn't, I didn't want to keep medicating the problem. I needed to understand what the root of it was. And the root of it was just, uh, things that I could do without or I could moderate a lot better. And doesn't mean I can't still have chocolate. I can't have chocolate in the same day that I have cheddar cheese, or I can't have cheddar cheese the same day I have red wine. And on occasion, I found workarounds. But that really, for me, said, okay, if I keep popping a pill to fix something that is not going to be, that is
Right.
not the highest and best for this body, because
That's
every pill has a
scary
side effect. It is.
because a lot of, and I know a lot of seniors especially just
Yeah.
blindly say, "Oh, okay, should I take that then? Because I don't."
Yes.
Okay, and I say, "Well, like with my mom and my aunt, they're in their
Mhm.
80s." And I'll be like, "Did you ask them how it'll interact with the five other medications
Things you're
you're
taking.
taking?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, because they said, I'm like, okay, then next time let's ask your pharmacist. We're going to take the whole list and say
Yeah.
what's working against each other here.
Yeah.
And I strongly encourage anyone that has loved ones that have to take a lot of medication, go to your pharmacy with your list and see what
Yeah.
works against each other because without fail, some of those medications aren't needed.
100%. Or one begets another. One
Yes,
prescription begets another to
yes, and
solve
it's
the side
awful.
effect of the first thing.
Right.
Well, I just said, okay, I hit the magic number. I hit the magic number on the scale. I hit the magic number of my age and said, no, no, and no. We better figure this out. We
Right.
better get more active because I was so sedentary. It was not good. And anyway, I thank heavens I set that intention and said, okay, I'm gonna do this.
And you
And
feel better for it, don't you?
oh yes, unbelievably.
So what is
Yeah.
it that you do to stay physically active?
I bike ride and occasionally walk, but I find the bike riding, especially in this Florida heat, is much better because at least you're getting a breeze in
You're
your
getting a
face.
breeze, right?
Yes. And I bumped into a neighbor and she said, "Oh, Luce, you're looking, what did you do? You look so great tonight." She could see, but 30 pounds ago. And she said, "I could see you riding." And it was 8 o'clock at night. So I had a headlight on the bike and the community is quiet. Everybody's tucked in for the night at 8
Yeah.
o'clock, 8:30. And it would still be 85 degrees and 80% humidity. And the
Yeah.
house, and in the rain, I even went and I said, I absolutely have to do this. I just had to. And it was an easy thing. I've never been a gym goer. I'm very uncoordinated. If you gave me a racket or a ball, whatever, or aerobics and had to go one direction when everybody else is going the other
Right.
direction. So this was a solitary thing. Have an earphone in and and that honestly that helped in a very I won't even call it restrictive. It wasn't. It was a prescribed diet I built myself and said, this will be satisfying. This is going to satisfy me. I'm not going to be looking for snacks at 8 o'clock at night. I'm not going to feel deprived. And honestly, it's a head game,
It
not to go
is.
into weight loss, but it's an ongoing head game. Instant gratification, which is today's buzzword, versus how do you want to look and how do you want to feel and how do you want to age
Right.
better?
Yeah,
Make some good
exactly.
decisions. Yeah.
And I've never been one because I had to lose weight too, and I just told myself, you know what? Because when I hit 50, this was a little while ago, I just all of a sudden started gaining weight for no reason.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yep.
going, what? What? And then it's like another 5 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
and then another 5 pounds. And I'm going, I'm not eating any different. And I am a
Right.
very active person. And I'm like, I exercise every day, but I was still gaining. And I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a diet person. So, and that was a lot of it had to do with a lot of my physical issues that I was having happen that
Right.
hadn't been diagnosed yet. But I decided, you know what? I love walking and I walk my dog every day.
Yeah.
And we would go at least a mile or two. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, Kim, you're walking a mile or two every day anyway. Add on a mile or two.
Yeah. Just
So I
keep
did. I
building it
added
up.
on a half mile. And then
Mm-hmm.
I added on another half mile. And, and I just now it's
Suddenly.
become so I have to do that every day because that's what makes me
Yeah.
feel good.
Yeah.
You get those positive endorphins going. So I'm up to 4.5 miles a day now. And
Yeah.
I love it,
Exactly.
and I
Exactly.
do it, half of it I do in my living room at night when I'm watching TV.
Oh, okay.
I
I
walk,
used to do that when I was stuck inside on a treadmill
yeah,
or,
I have a
yeah.
little walk pad. I don't even have
Mm-hmm.
a treadmill. I got one of those walk pads because they're smaller and I can
Yeah.
buzz on that. Or if I get tired of that, I'll just march in place or I literally walk around my downstairs.
Okay.
Or I run up and down the stair, just to
Whatever
get
you
my
have to
steps
do.
in, to get so many
Yes.
steps in. And I found for me anyway, when I reach that number of steps each day, it's a win.
Absolutely.
And
I would
sometimes,
not
those wins, you got to grab them where you can.
100%. If I didn't get a bike ride in, the scale didn't move. Just didn't move. It was like, okay, we're going to carrot and stick you.
Yeah.
We're going to, you want the a quarter of a pound, a half a pound off that scale, then you better get your butt out on the bike.
I
And
don't weigh myself.
why do
I I weigh
exactly?
myself maybe once a month.
Okay.
I go by how my pants fit me
Mm.
because the scale, it's to me, it just stresses me out.
Well, there was a whole period during COVID where button pants went out the window. I don't
Elastic
wear
all the way.
Yeah, yoga pants. I've never given them up. I don't think I'm
Are
ever
they
going
the
to. And
best
so,
things ever?
yes, yes.
Well, I
So
tell
they
my
don't tell you.
it's
They,
all
they
about
don't.
comfort. You reach another That's
Yes,
another part of that stage in life. It's all about comfort.
yes. But they stretch, and so they're not a good. For me, they're just not a good enough indicator of you went a little overboard on
Oh, right,
doing stuff.
right.
Yes,
Yeah. Now
yeah,
I do still have, a few of my button zip jeans,
yes, yes.
and if I have to struggle or suck in my gut, I'm like, gotta walk another mile.
Yeah,
Got but I've just to me, I'm not letting that because that's just another stressor. And I live with
true.
PTSD, and those little
Mm,
stressors can add up and then start triggering other stuff, which is I'm like,
yeah,
I don't need this today. you
yeah.
know.
No, it's true. When things build up for me too, I think the term is inertia. Someone asked me the other day because I used the term inertia, where you have so much to do, but you can't even set a foot through the door to do what you need to do. And I go in cycles. That has happened to me where I touch nothing. I lay on the couch with a book, and I get inspiration from other books, and I
Yeah.
read until I feel like, okay, the world didn't cave in because it didn't do everything on that to-do list.
Right.
I'll add a few more things,
Are
and
you
away
my
we go.
sister from like another world? Everything you're saying, I'm like, I do the same thing.
It's cool.
I'm not the only one out there.
No,
Oh
no,
my gosh. Time has flown. Time
it
has flown.
has.
This has been such a fun conversation.
I'm
I love
glad.
how
Same here.
conversations go like this, and what a
Yep.
true pleasure to meet you. I want you now to please share with all those listeners out there where they can find all about you, your books, where are your books, and all that good
Yes.
stuff. And if you have anything new coming out soon.
Well, my very first novel, my debut, was launched on January 17th, and it's called
Yay!
Delicious Surrender.
Oh, do you have a copy? Oh, looky
Oh,
there.
I know. Isn't he handsome?
Ooh, delicious.
He's a Scottish billionaire. And
Well, of course he should be a Scottish billionaire.
yes,
Awesome.
it takes place in London, starts in London, but then moves to Scotland. And that has just been a fantasy location for me. And I zoomed in on that. I have a website, lucesutherland.com, and it's Luce Sutherland. I write a blog about living life juicy. I have to get myself back in gear to do these monthly. The book is available on Kindle Unlimited and Amazon Kindle. It's listed in Barnes and Noble, and hopefully print is coming soon enough. I'm prepared for all of that, and it's a series, so I do have a second and third, and maybe even a fourth. Not the
Ooh.
same two characters, but related characters to write the next juicy romance about another couple with yeah.
So will the next book in the series be coming out this year in 2025?
That would be lovely. And this one should go much easier, people tell me. And I have now people in place to assist me.
You have people.
I've uncovered editors and cover artists. All of those things take a lot of effort and research to find the right people to take this book into the market. And all of those are in place now. So there is that, me finding those hours in the evening to hunker down and get going. Yes. So at the latest, February 2026, book two. Yeah.
Okay, but we're shooting for 2025.
We are shooting for it. Yes.
We
Yes.
said it out there. We said
Testing.
it out loud.
We did it. It's on the
This
vision
year,
board. Mm,
2025,
yes.
book two.
Yes.
How awesome. How awesome. Now, I ask all of my guests as we wrap the show
Yes.
up to please toss out a nugget of hope to the listeners, something that they can tuck away. Maybe it's motivational, inspirational, just that little nugget of hope. So, what would your nugget be today?
My favorite saying, which came to me earlier last year, sorry, late last year, it's no longer last year, um, is when you're struggling, understand that the universe is not doing it to you, it's happening for you. It's
Indeed.
happening for you. Whatever situation you find yourself in, it is for some reason that might not have revealed itself, but it will. And just to acknowledge that it isn't a hardship to you, it is for you, or
No matter
an
how hard it
adventure
might be.
awaits.
Yeah, no matter how hard it might be to see in that moment.
Yes, exactly.
Because we all know, we've all been there. We all live, we're all living. And
Mhm.
that means no one has ever been guaranteed a smooth ride.
No.
I'm always like, all right, oh my gosh, things are really getting hard. And then another something comes, another, like, all right, time to buckle up, buttercup, because it's a
Mhm.
bumpy ride.
Exactly. I was going to say it's a bumpy ride, but we diamonds aren't made without intense pressure and
That's
whatever
right.
it is.
Yeah. Intense pressure.
Exactly.
We don't want it, but sometimes
No,
we go through it.
exactly.
Well, thank you so much. That was a beautiful nugget. Thank you for sharing that. And
Thank
thank
you,
you for
Kim.
being my guest today on Let Fear Bounce. This has been so fun and a true pleasure. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you, Kim. I've enjoyed it immensely. I've had a great time. It's fun.
Wonderful. Yay. We're going to have to
Yep.
have you back when that new book comes out
Okay.
this year
Okay.
in 2025.
Yes.
I said
Yes.
it out
Putting
loud
it there.
again.
It's there. I've said it out loud. Oh my God. I've said it out loud. Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Well, everybody out there, thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with us today for about a half an hour. Each Wednesday, new episodes drop, folks, YouTube and on any listening platform. This is Kim Langling, your host of Let Fear Bounce. Everybody be well, stay well, and above all, be blessed.
Kindness. It's simple, powerful, and free. Yet, it holds the extraordinary ability to change someone's day or even their life. In a world that often feels chaotic, your small acts of kindness are like ripples in a pond. Each gesture sends waves of hope farther than you can imagine. In the book, Nuggets of Hope, Cultivate Kindness, available on Amazon, you'll find stories of spreading kindness through simple acts. And guess what? You can do the same. Start tossing your own nuggets of hope into the world. It's easier than you think to make a difference. Let's make the world a little brighter together. Order your copy of Nuggets of Hope, Cultivate Kindness on Amazon.
Thank you